First of all, I want to welcome everyone for coming tonight to our meeting. I think it's going to be a great meeting, and I hope that you will enjoy it as much as I will. And I wanted to mention our president, Gary Pierce. He will not be with us this evening. He had a family emergency and just wanted to ask everyone to keep him in your thoughts and prayers this evening. We have a very special speaker, and her name is Janet Hetchin. And did I pronounce that right, Janet? Okay, and wave to everyone, Janet Hetchin. And she lives here in Fort Mill, but not in Carolina Orchards. She is a retired teacher as of January 2022, and she taught French and Spanish. And I just wanted to welcome her, wanted to let you know that she was at our first informal meeting when we were thinking about trying to get the group back together. And we were so impressed with her, and she volunteers a lot, that we asked her to come to the meeting. And so she agreed to come. So I'm going to let her tell you about her background and also why she decided to volunteer. So Janet, the floor is yours. Welcome.
Thanks so much, Niall. And hey, everybody. Well, what we're going to talk about tonight is getting involved, and whether that's volunteering or sometimes it's a paid position where you're working on a campaign. But, and it doesn't have to be a campaign. You might be working for climate change or just any number of causes that you feel passionate about. So before I do a presentation, because I've kind of made a little presentation to hopefully make things very, very clear for you about how you can get started on this if you haven't done things before, or just maybe different opportunities that you hadn't thought of. But before we start that, can I ask you all to participate? I was a teacher, and I have been doing virtual teaching for a while, and I just demand that people participate in the class. So if you can click on your chat, little chat function, and type in any ways that you have in your entire life gotten involved in, you know, either a political cause or something you believed in. Maybe it was the ERA you were, you know, trying to persuade people about. This can be anything from writing an email to a congressperson. It can be just sharing information with family members. It can be teaching your kids about how civics works in our country. It can be really anything where you engage in something that might have a political impact. So I know everybody's done something. So it's just so that I know, like, kind of who. There you go. Oh, beautiful. Beautiful. I'm trying to think of other things you might not have thought of. Right, just really even putting that I voted sticker on is really promoting an action to other people, right? So don't think phone banking. My goodness, very good, very good. Would you ever donate money? That's participation right there. How about a letter to the editor? Any of these things. Anybody run for office? No. Have you gone to PTA meetings? That's engaging in your community. And if it was a public school, that's the government right there. Right? Poll worker, wonderful, wonderful. Okay, so what I hope to show you is that you're probably doing some of the things I'm going to talk about, but there's a whole lot more. Oh, somebody phone texted for Jamie Harrison last year. You are braver than I am, because I went to that training and I was like, my head was exploding from that. So kudos to you, Linda. Very, very good. Okay, well, I'm going to share a presentation right now and just try to you know, share what I've done, and hope you don't think, well, boy, I could have done that. I hope it's going to be enlightening to you in some way. All right, so what we're going to talk about is getting involved and making a difference, which are two different things, right? You can get out there and do things, but you want to know that you're having an impact. And we don't always, right? We sometimes feel like we're spinning our wheels. So first, some of my background. I'm originally from Detroit, so just because it's fun to do, will everybody go back to your chat and would everybody put where you're from? And if you're in the witness protection program, you can lie about it. You can, but where are you all from? Pittsburgh. Oh, excellent. We got two there. Very good. Very good. Princeton. Wonderful. All right. Ooh, Eric from Detroit. Let's go. Yeah. Very good. So people from around the world. So very, very nice to see you all. My education. So I got a bachelor's degree in French with a minor in art history from Kalamazoo College back in 1986. I got a master's degree at Winthrop in 1997 in liberal arts. And I've been a teacher for the last 28 years, teaching French and Spanish to all the way from kindergarten all the way up to 12th grade. So I tell you this just to say I have no qualifications to be here speaking to you today on this subject. I really don't. And to me, that is the point of it. The point is that all of you are every bit as qualified as any other person to be engaging and sharing with other people how to do all of this. It's not any special talent. You don't need to know about all the issues. You don't need to be well-versed in history or have connections. We can all participate in this. Now, in 2017, that's when probably I would say I made my first move in politics. I certainly was rabid about politics before then. But if you all were like I was blown away by November 8th, 2016. I was just crumbled by it, I would say. And I knew that I just wanted to do something. And there was an opportunity provided to me. And that was made very easy to just go to Washington and be there on the day after inauguration. So I boarded a bus with one of your members, with Diane Genovese. She and I took a bus from Charlotte. We left at midnight and drove all the way up to DC and joined in this march. That is one of the most successful protests in American history, I think. I think they said it is the most well-attended protest in our history. So that was all over the country going on. Once we got back from that, the people who organized that march, they sent us instructions on what to do next. So it was really cool. I mean, just a lot of different choices, but we put together what was called a huddle group, HUDDLE, a huddle group. And that was made up of just very local people that we knew, a few women that we knew. Ann Springs Close was in the group with us. She had fantastic ideas, and we started getting active. So one of the first things that came along was the Archie Parnell campaign. I'm not sure how many of you were here back then, but can you kind of nod your heads if you remember the Archie Parnell campaign? All right, so Archie Parnell was running for the seat that is held by Ralph Norman right now. He is our District 5 representative that goes to Washington, to the House of Representatives. And that seat had become available when President Trump chose Mick Mulvaney to go up and work for him in the Office of Management and Budget. And so that office opened up and there was a special election. And so to me, that's why I was able to participate in that, because it was in June and I was out of school. I wasn't teaching. So one thing I can say to everybody, and you probably feel this way, some of you are still working, am I right? And so you don't have time to do all these things necessarily. Now I'm thrilled to be retired. And I'll tell you, part of the reason I retired right now is because it's a midterms year. And I wanted to be active in doing something about the mess that we're in. And so I had a chance to take my retirement, and I did it because I just wanted time. Otherwise, I did not have the time to give to it. So in 2017, this was a special election, the only matchup going on. And so I decided that I had that time to give to it. And I learned a lot about what was involved in running a campaign. And here's the great thing. You all know where you're living, right? You're in York County, which went for Trump 2/3 majority, right? Voted for him. After that election in November of 2016, Archie Parnell, a Democrat, lost the seat here by 3 percentage points.
Sad.
By 3 percentage points. And I was like, oh my gosh, we had such an impact. How did we turn it around? And granted that's not just York County that's involved in that whole District 5, but District 5 went for Trump. And so it was really interesting to me to see how close we came to doing that. And so I'm going to talk about what the things were that I was able to do in that campaign and learn from. Now, since I've been retired, which is just recently, just 2 weeks ago, I've been working for education issues. If you're following the news, there's quite a bit going on with education right now, all over our country, but in South Carolina. So this is a picture of me with some other retired teachers, and this is Senator Mike Fanning, who is our biggest proponent of education in the Senate and probably in the whole General Assembly that we have. He's a good friend of mine for years now. Okay, so when you're deciding how to get involved and what you want to do, you have to think about time. What will be the duration of your commitment to doing something and the frequency. So you could do like I did that first time and say, okay, this is one election that happens to be timed just perfectly with, I got a little bit of time here. I have a friend who has a greenhouse business. And so November comes along, they are dead there. Their season is over. So she could work the polls. She could it's a little late for voter registration at that point, but there's a lot that she can still get out and do canvassing because of her timetable. So think about what your schedule is. Maybe you want to put all of your energy into these midterms and then take a break for 2 years. Just think about, is this going to be a daily part of your life? What's it going to be like? So do you want it to be long-term? Could it be cyclical? My mom, every single year she worked the polls. So she did that with her friends, and it was just a cool way to be involved. And you could go whole hog and really be doing hours of it per day or making a weekend commitment, something like that. So that's the first thing I think. How much time do you want to devote? And that will direct you in what some of these opportunities are. Your willingness to travel. So during COVID, a lot of this wasn't going on. So are you willing to leave your home? Well, a lot of us don't even want to do that anymore. And wonderfully now, you can do so much. Those of you who have done text banking or phone banking, you can do that from your couch in your pajamas, right? And yes. So that really can be a good opportunity. And those two activities are probably the biggest volunteer activities going on right now. Are you willing to leave your district? So right now I'm eyeing a special election that's coming up, but it is way over near the coast, but I'm just really interested in it. I think that maybe we could have an impact there, but I would have to drive. This is what I did last time when we were canvassing. We drove all over kind of a large area. That's okay with me as long as I'm not going to big cities. But you've got to think about what's your level of commitment and then leave your state. The reason I talk about that is that I had a contact with a woman a couple of years ago who was coming to our area to work on a campaign. She was coming from Raleigh because this campaign, and I can't remember which one it was, but it was a national one. And so she was willing to come and volunteer her time. But in order to save hotel costs, she had put in to be housed. Was there anybody willing to volunteer to house somebody? So I volunteered that, and she could come and stay at my house for I think it was 4 days she was volunteering for. But she was willing to leave her state and do something. So it just depends on, where do you think you're going to do the most good? She obviously thought that national seat was going to affect her as well. All right, what level of responsibility do you want? Because I have a friend who is about to retire as well, but she's like, I want to get involved, but all I'm doing is stuffing envelopes. That's the level of responsibility I want. I'll do the grunt work. And we totally understand that, and that needs to be done. Do you want to interact with people? Which is a different level of responsibility. Of course, you have to learn a little bit to be able to do that effectively. And then, do you want to coordinate events? I contacted a woman who's running a wonderful program called Rural Project for South Carolina. And I was so impressed with her. To me, she is the South Carolina's next Stacey Abrams. And I said, I want to help you out. And she immediately wrote back and said, will you coordinate a voter registration drive in Rock Hill? And I just couldn't do it. I was in the thick of final exams, and I couldn't do that. That was overwhelming to me at that time. Right now, maybe I could take that on. So you have to think about finding what's going to be, had I accepted that, I probably would have failed at it. And that would have been a bad thing. And what level of impact are you going to desire to come from your action? My feeling lately is that you get so much more from your local action. Like, think of how many more times your vote counts here. When there are elections that are decided by 100 votes, your vote really counts here. Whereas in the national election, I know my presidential vote is tossed out every 4 years because of the state that I live in. So I'm can have more impact locally. Goal setting. You may decide, well, I'm going to work on campaigns until somebody wins, and then I'm going to be satisfied, right? Or you just may want to learn. Maybe that's your goal, is just to learn about the whole process. That's a huge impact. If you don't see the impact from what you're doing, the fear is that you'll give up on it. So consider what kind of an impact you want to have. All right, now in this part, this is interactive part. I'm going to share with you what some of the gifts are. And as we go along, I want you to type in what yours are, but don't hit enter until we're done with all of them, okay? Don't hit enter until then. Okay, so the first one, following directions. Is that a gift that you have? Because almost all of these things that you need to do, they're going to walk you through just a little bit of what you need to easily learn to be able to do those things. So if that's one of yours, and believe it or not, there's a lot of people who can't do that. So if you can't, that's really good. Linda can do that because she was able to learn that texting stuff, and I was not. All right, the next thing, technology. And this could be just knowing about your own iPhone and texting, or it could be setting up a website, or even to the point of going in and helping with data banks and how all of that stuff can be set up for a campaign. Talking to people. Maybe that is your gift, and that could be informing them like we do as teachers. Padmini does that, right, at Winthrop. And so that's a skill, that's a gift. Persuading people is a huge gift. But I think that one of the big myths about volunteering for things is that you think you're going to be persuading people. And there's really not much of that I see that goes on in the official participation on campaigns. You're really not encouraged to try to persuade people or win them over. It's more about confirming votes and reminding. But if you are if you're a salesperson, right? If you're a lawyer, that's a gift that you have, the gift of persuasion. Do you like talking to people one-on-one? Because as COVID, backs away, hopefully, we may be able to be canvassing again. Do you like talking to a group? So I hope you should be typing in which of these, just if you have one after another, just separate them by commas. What my hope is that when we all hit the enter, we're going to see this huge list of gifts that your group has to be able to impact the world. All right, the next one, writing, is writing your gift, and how could you use that? Writing letters to the editor. So I did a workshop on this maybe a month and a half ago, I think, online, and it was for a group that was all about I think it's called Citizens for Climate Action, something like that. And so we were taught how to tweak our writing to write a good letter to the editor. And those can have huge impact. Writing postcards is something that is part of every campaign these days. And I have gotten a few of these. Can you guys raise your hand? Because I don't want you to mess up your chat, but raise your hand if you have gotten a personalized postcard or card in the mail from someone wanting you to vote or participate in an election. Support a candidate. Have you? I know. And I think I've only gotten 2 in my life, but I was really stunned. Like, wow, that person, they signed their full name and it was like it was written to me. So that's a way to participate as well. I don't know the impact that it has. These things are tough to measure, but if this is your skill, well, social media posts, if it goes viral, you've had an impact. There are posts that I see and I copy them and I share them with people and things that have changed my mind on things and different issues. Talking on the phone. I will just say, I hate that. I'm never going to phone bank. I hate talking to people on the phone. I would rather Zoom and see people and get the facial reaction. I cannot talk on the phone. If you're good at that, they love you. They love you and they need you. Money. We talked about money before. Maybe you're just saying, well, I don't have time now. So when I was working, I didn't have time. So I would find campaigns that were close around the country that had a shot at winning, and that's where I would give my money. I think one of them won. Housing volunteers is what I mentioned before. So that's, even if you feel as though you don't have the time to do anything or you're too exhausted to do anything, sometimes just letting someone stay with you. And what was explained to me was that all I needed to do was provide a bed and a bathroom for them. But I, wanted to do breakfast and all that too. So that's something. So what the way that came up was, I think someone had called me and said, yeah, what can you handle right now? We really need people to do certain things. And I said, oh, okay, I could do that. Yeah, they could stay at my house. And so they called me about 2 weeks later and had a person and everything. And so that was very easily done. All right, and then more ideas, put those in under your chat, because there's tons of things I haven't thought of. I'm just thinking of one right now is humor. If you're funny, people need you. If you can bake, campaigns need you to bring stuff to the workers. So there's just so many. All right, are you ready? And hit enter. Hit enter. Ooh, look at this. Oh my gosh. Oh, creating memes. Look at that. Oh, I have no idea how to make a meme. I don't know that. Oh, wonderful. Good. Yes, the information campaigns to counter disinformation. Great. And talking on the phone, you guys, you're my heroes, because thanks for doing that. All right. So here are the actual avenues for getting involved and working on a campaign. I'm going to go through the big ones first. So the first one is phone banking. Phone banking you can do at home alone, or you can go to a campaign office and do it. Some people like to do that. They go with their friends. There's food there. It's a social atmosphere. They can kind of learn from each other and listen to other people doing it and see how it's done. You do not use your own phone number. Nobody ever sees that that's your name. And so as you're doing it, I think, was it Niall who had done this before? Niall, you can tell us more about this afterwards maybe, but I think you log into a site and then it's like networked through there. And so you're not using your own phone number. You could be reminding people about an election. You could be asking for a confirmation of their support. So really all of these, you are giving information out and you're collecting data back. And so the data that you're collecting is how likely are they to vote? Do they still live there? Is that still their number? Do they know about voting? So all of these things are what they like to gather to have information out on all of us to know how their campaign should be directed. All right, text banking. is easily done from home, or I guess from wherever. The thing people like about it is that you text multiple people at once, and then you kind of sit back and wait for replies. And again, I have never done these two. So some of your members have done these. We can ask them to tell about that after. And you can do it while watching TV. So here's a page that shows how you just so easily sign up to do these things. Just this will be on someone's campaign page, and you click on the session that you want to do, you sign up, they send you the link, and boom. So here's a typical text, and you just plug in the first name, but you would just be, clicking on this, and that's what would be sent out to 100 phone numbers at a time. And then what you would do is you kind of sit back and you wait for replies to come to you. And then from what I understand, there are just pat responses to questions or requests for more information, and you just click on them and direct them. And so you can easily do that as you're watching TV or waiting at the doctor's office or whatever. All right, so here's next one is canvassing. Canvassing is the one that I know the most about, and it hasn't been going on lately because of COVID restrictions. So in 2017, when we did this, the way it would work is we would go to the party office, and the party office for York County was on Cherry Road. And I think it's still there. When I look at the website is not working right now. So, but that's where it's always been that I've known about. And we would just go in there on a weekday, and the workers would be there. This is a few weeks before the election, and they would give us brief training if we hadn't already had it. And then they give us voter lists, and I'm going to show you what those look like. And you only go to the addresses that are on the list. You're not supposed to talk to anybody who's not on that list. And again, you're doing data collection and giving out information. So I think the misconception that I had was that I would be trying to win over voters and change people's minds when I was canvassing. And that is not what it's about. They really don't want you to engage in that type of conversation. They tell you before you leave, okay, this is the message we're getting across right now, if you can just relate this message. Okay, and the info that you're giving is going to depend on where you are in the campaign. If it's early, you're giving out literature, info about the candidates. You might, if they're interested, seem super interested, you ask them if they can volunteer. And then later on, you're just going to be asking, do you know where your precinct or where your polling place is? Do you have a plan for getting there? That kind of thing. And it is not about convincing people or flipping them, which to me was disappointing because I wanted to be winning over people instead of just giving out information. But this is what the assignments are. So here is a guy back in that campaign, and he's holding these voter lists. Now, probably he was with a partner. I have gone both with a partner and alone. I prefer going alone, but then you do have quite a bit of materials to hold on to. So if they're not there, you check that off that they were not home. You curl up whatever literature you have and tuck it in the door handle, and then you mark down some information and go on to the next place. What else could happen during this time? The person answers the door, and that's not who that is. So you can mark that down. They don't live here anymore. What the people want to know sometimes is why do you have this information? And these are public records. When you vote, a lot of things go in about that vote. So your address is recorded. The list that we had, they had the person's age and their sex on there. And as far as I could tell, these had to have been collected from Democratic primaries, because I don't know another way that they could know that these were voters who were likely to vote Democratic. It doesn't say that on your voter registration card that you belong to a party or anything like that. So only one time did we have a gentleman that we met and we said, well, you know, you're on our list. So apparently maybe in the past you had voted in a Democratic primary. And he was adamant he had not done that. But I've voted in Republican primaries before, just for different reasons. So I'm not exactly sure how they get those voter names, but they're chosen to be the safest people to go to in terms of, we already know these guys are good bets. And so it's worthwhile to spend our time confirming them. Does all that make sense? Am I making sense?
Yes.
Yes. Okay.
Yes,
Okay.
you are.
All right. Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, so I loved canvassing because I got to talk to so many very, very interesting people. Sometimes it was scary. Once we weren't chased by a dog. We were really growled at I was terrified. And we really could have been hurt that day. So we were stupid in what we did. It said there was a dog, and this was a kind of a remote area that we were in. I was with a partner, but still. So I was scared that time. But the people that I met were just some of them so fantastic, so outside of people that I usually would meet and get to talk with. So it was a great experience, and I would encourage everybody to do it if it comes back and we can do that again. All right, so this is what the list would look like. This is similar to what ours were like. So you can see that it's the most important thing's the address, and then how many people live there. Now, what happened a couple of times is that we went to an address where the parents who lived there were Republican, and they didn't really know that their college-aged child was showing up as a Democrat, but that was okay. Nobody, no, yeah. So it's a little bit weird sometimes. And so you can see the different types of things that they're trying to info that they're trying to collect. That this person is saying they don't support the candidate, they're not home, they want to contribute, volunteer, wants a yard sign. We didn't have all of those. We had a few different choices there. But like I said, we also had the age of the person. So we could kind of judge if the person opening the door was that person or not. We got so many people who had moved. We had the vast majority were not home. So in that way, it can be very disappointing. Going on a weekday was especially like that. When we went on Saturday, much more effective, I think. And so we would have maybe 5 or 6 of these pages, and you didn't have to get through them all. You could just go back and then, tear it off and give it back to them, say you didn't get to that part, but you really tried to complete the job. Voter registration is the next thing. This happens all the time, all year, and even at times when it's not midterms going on or anything. When we did it, and I did this only one time with Diane Genovese, who's in your group, we went and checked in at the party office on Cherry Road. They did a really brief training, and then they gave us applications for voter registration. And we went out to a location that had approved for us to be there. And this was a convenience store. And they let us set up right outside the door. And it was in kind of a shady part of town, and there were drug deals going on in the parking lot. So it was a kind of a eye-opening experience for us. And the idea was to have them fill out the application. We would take it and turn it in for them, or that, of course, they can take it with them and turn it in, but that's less likely that they're going to follow through on it. And my coworker said, isn't that kind of weird that you get to collect those and you're partisan? And I thought about it. I thought it's a little bit weird, but it's not a vote, it's voter registration. And then that person has to follow up and see, did I actually get my voter registration card in the mail and whatnot. So lots of times you're just giving it out, hoping they fill it in and turn it into the right place. Lots of times giving information about who can register to vote. I can't tell you how many people I met who had, they had been convicted of a crime and they had been told at one point or another they could never vote again. And so educating those people on the fact that if they paid their debt to society and were past parole, they could, of course, re-register and could vote again. That could really up the number of people who could vote in our state. The goal is to have them fill it out there, or at least give it to them. So voter registration seems to me, does it seem like this to you, that these are votes nobody knows about? Nobody knows which way they could go. And so they haven't been part of the equation. So I love this idea. To me, this is the best thing, would be to go into these rural areas in South Carolina and just empower these people to vote and try to let them know that it does matter. And I think I already talked about that. Yeah, and then we did take the applications back to the office and turn them in. Okay, these next two I know nothing about, but if you did this type of work during your career, then they need you on a campaign. If you already know how to do fundraising, then you can just tweak those skills for helping out a campaign. It's really, really needed. And data and research the same way. Trying to figure out where campaigns' resources should be directed is invaluable. All right, so these are ideas then for just working independently. And, I tend to think sometimes that I know better than other people about how these things should be done or something like that. So if you're like that too, and you want to work independently, here's a couple of ideas. The first is just talking to strangers. And I have done that successfully. I don't know, I would say successfully, maybe 5 times, where I think people really did become aware of something that they didn't know before. Most successful time doing this was at the Arby's on Cherry Road in Rock Hill. And it was 2:00 in the afternoon and there were no people in there, and I had ordered, and then I was just standing with a young woman. And so I started talking about the election to her, and she said she wasn't registered. And I said, well, I think you can register on your phone right now. And I told her the website to go to, which is scvotes.org. And she went on there. I'm not sure if she just got an application sent to her, but she did it right then and was amazed that she could do that. And so, it wasn't confrontational at all. She had been meaning to do it, and just taking the chance and showing people, I think, that it's important to you. Makes them think, well, maybe it should be important to me too. So talking to strangers. This is my idea, and I'm sure this has been done before, but it just drives me crazy that people don't know what's in the Build Back Better plan. They're not having the idea. They couldn't tell you the big things in there. What if we had these printed up? What if I just had them printed up on biodegradable paper and just hand them out whenever I could? And said, do you know what's in that bill anyway? And if they said no, but here, this is what I think is in there. And on the back have a website with more info. I don't know, it's just an idea. Now, the last thing is what I've started doing, and I just think this is so important. This is a great thing, and your group could do this, and I don't think that other people are doing it. So meet with your elected official face to face. Go to Columbia and see them, either in a group or alone. And so I was able to do this just by sending an email to our reps. And let me see, here they are. So our senator here is Michael Johnson. His wife is, I think she's a 2nd grade teacher in Fort Mill. So he knows a little bit about teaching and problems and issues in education. And then our House Representative is Ray Felder. Ray Felder is super important because she's on the Education and Public Works Committee. Makes a ton of decisions about, they're writing the bills that are coming out right now. And so she knew a lot about that. And what we were encouraged to do, an educational group that we're in, was to go and on this day that was set aside for educational lobbying, meet with these guys and just kind of tell them how we felt about the bills that are going through it. And these bills are about CRT. There's 5 bills being considered right now that regarding CRT. And then there are a whole slew of bills about ESAs and which are educational savings accounts, basically a voucher program that they're trying to get set up throughout our state. And so these are the things that we have a lot of opinions on, and we want to convey those. I just sent an email to both of them and said there's 4 of us coming to Columbia, and we wonder if we could meet with you. And both of them were like, of course, I can set aside 15 minutes here. And it was great. It was great. And Representative Felder especially, she had the power over these bills because she was on that committee and she knew about them. And we could tell that there were just things she was incredibly misinformed about. For example, she thought that during the initial return to school during COVID, that every teacher had a choice about whether they taught virtually or were in the classroom face-to-face. Well, any teacher knows that that was never going to work out. A master schedule just doesn't work that way, that the kids who went virtual, what their course choices were was going to match up with what these teachers needed to do for their health. That just didn't work. And so she had no idea about that. And to me, that's a basic thing that should be known. And I thought, wow, I guess we just didn't share enough with her. So there was probably 6 or 7 things that we told her, which she kind of opened her eyes because she did not know that. It was so great to be able to do that. When we talked with Senator Michael Johnson, it was a very different story. And he kind of explained that to us. He said, I'm not on an education committee. I'm not going to know anything about the bills or really spend much time worrying about them until a bill comes out. And so he's on other committees, agricultural stuff and everything. That's his bailiwick. That's what he's going to be fluent in. So it's important to kind of know what can they help you with, because otherwise it was kind of a waste of time us talking with him, as Representative Felder did. I think that more and more people need to go and talk to them face to face, because right now what's clear is that they're getting an earful. They're getting a lot of phone calls from people who are very excited about misinformation that they have heard. And those are the people they're hearing from the most. So even if you feel like I'm just another phone call saying the same thing, they have to log every one of those phone calls and say what the upshot was, whether you were for or against. And it goes into an official record. And so even if you just do a brief call to say, I'm against this bill, click, you've done it. You've done it. But they were incredibly nice to us. So, and they have really nice offices too. And there's just, I guess I was just shocked by, there's a lot of really nice suits walking around there. And I just thought, this doesn't look like South Carolina to me. Anyway, all right, so here's even more ideas. So this is the last of my presentation. Oh my gosh, you guys, I'm sorry. I think I've gone pretty long here. I'm so sorry. All right, even more ideas, things you can do. So know your congressman, sign up for their newsletter. I want you to raise your hands right now. If you're still there, raise your hand. Who got the newsletters from Senator Michael Johnson and Ray Felder? I got them this morning. So if you're not getting, very good, very good. If you're not getting them, just go to their website, maybe their Facebook page, and sign up for them, because it's really good to know. Representative Felder worded things in a certain way, not this one, but the last one, that I thought, well, I know where she stands on that. So it's very, very informative. Know how to contact them. So save their email, make it one of your contacts, and be ready to just shoot them a line. And I always put my opinion right in the subject, to just say, here, if you don't have time to read it, at least you saw my message. Mm-hmm. Go to town halls. Go to, and I know I say this, and I was writing it today, and I thought, I'd be scared to go today. I'd be really scared to go right now. They seem just crazy. But I think that's because one side is going. Working at polling place. I plan to do this this year. We're going to want to have people from both sides of the aisle working these polling places. Vote in every single election. I was guilty of not doing this most of my life. And these little elections are where we could have a lot of power. And then just taking it beyond the internet. There's groups I belong to on Facebook, and they have a lot of memes and they have a lot of complaining and a lot of vitriol, but we got to do something beyond that. Okay. I think that's it. And I will stop sharing that right now.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, you guys. And I'm so sorry. I just talked. Anyway, any questions, but please, the people who have done these other things, you can please tell more about those, because I did a bad job on that. How do we know when there's an election in our area? Oh, very good. Okay, so my follow-up is going to be a list of resources where you can click on things that will show you that. Okay, so I'll add that to the list.
I can talk about the text banking if you'd like. I was like you, where I was just beside myself after 2016. And then I really wanted to make a difference. I was hoping to make a difference in the senatorial race. So I decided to go out for Jamie Harrison. And I just really, really liked him. He was so energetic. We had gone to one of the Democratic Party functions after we had moved here. So we just moved in 2019. So, we were really just here a short time. And I guess they had talked about the opportunities. So I got involved and I got training, and it really wasn't that difficult. I'm pretty well versed in the computer, but it's all through the computer. There's a phone number and they send you a list and they tell you when you're going to submit the information. So it was maybe every week or sometimes twice a week as the campaign got closer to the election, they would send about 100 names. So you would, what?
Just numbers.
Yeah, 100 phone numbers, but you had the name and then you would just press that. And then you had to be on the computer for, I would say, about a half hour, because people don't always respond. So you had to make sure that you were there to respond to people. There were times I got choice words from people and some of the comments were interesting, but it wasn't really big. You had to keep checking back into the system to make sure you responded to people, because people would say, oh yeah, I'm definitely voting for him. Great, thanks. No, I'm not voting. Mostly like that, or somebody's.
And you had to click something else, like if it was a follow-up that's needed or something.
Right. Oh, right. Because there were different steps. I don't remember everything exactly, but yes, there were different steps where I would say, oh, would you like to participate in this? Like if I could see if they were really enthusiastic and said, oh, yeah, let's get rid of Lindsay. Okay. And I'd say, oh, would you be willing to help out and volunteer? And they'd say, yes, what do I do? And then I would send that to the higher up person. Because I was in touch with the supervisor that I was dealing with, who was from California, actually. And she was great. So there were people who were doing this texting and getting involved from all over the country. It was really interesting. So that was kind of the essence of it.
Wasn't that hard?
No, it wasn't hard. Once I kind of figured it out.
Yeah. That's fantastic. But that was the idea that I got too. Most of the people who were on there were not from South Carolina, is kind of about it. And there were different, it was a great website. They just had so much going. It was very slick. It was very slick. But my only complaint was that I came away from that thinking that texting and talking on the phone are not my things. And I came away from it feeling like there was no place for me in that campaign, unfortunately. And that, I think, was a weakness of theirs. And I think there's got to be grassroots efforts. And it was completely during the hotspot of COVID. So there wasn't this thing going on. But I did fault them a bit for that. I felt like they were throwing away some of us who weren't willing to do that. But kudos to you for doing it, man, and learning it, doing it.
Mm.
because, and it wasn't that hard after all.
No, it really wasn't. No, I thought it went pretty well once I figured it out pretty quickly, and they were
Right.
very helpful, the
Good.
people I had to deal with. And so it's interesting. I called some people too to follow up, because then they'll say, what is he for? So you really you have to know, why you want to vote for him. Yeah, I would do it
That
again.
was heartbreaking. Yeah.
Oh, I was really upset about it. I really thought he had a chance.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I thought he was one good guy.
And also, I just felt like that was a campaign. I felt like for 2020, I didn't think I had a chance with getting Biden in from South Carolina, but I thought, let me put my efforts towards him because I thought maybe there was a chance we could get Lindsey Graham out.
And the polling was showing pretty strong too.
Yeah, it was.
Yeah.
And Niall, you did phone. Were you speaking with people?
Yes, but it was on a national level. I had preferred the texting because I didn't have to speak to anyone. And the texting on the national level for Biden and Harris was different than for Jamie, but it was very, very easy and it was very fast. But at that time, when I was doing it, it was going out to like everyone. And it was a lot of Trump supporters. And the texting was like, the comments getting back, they were really horrible, but they needed that because they were trying to weed out to see who were Biden's supporters. So I had to endure that. Then it got to the point where a lot of people decided they prefer to text than to phone bank. And so when I would go to sign on, they said it's full. The text banking is full. We need help with phone banking. So I thought, okay, I'll do that. I'll step outside of my comfort zone and do the phone banking. And I found that it was very helpful too. And like I said, it was on a national level. So they will direct you on what cities or states you need to go to. So we were calling all over the country. And sometimes it was slow and we would be waiting and we're thinking, oh, it would be great to get 50 calls in. But unfortunately, it didn't happen like that all the time. But it was helping them to get the data that they needed. And Jan was part of the group my group that I had sponsored here in Carolina Orchards. And so she can also, Jan, do you want to ad-lib on that as well or chime in?
Yeah, I actually did both phone banking and text banking, and I found the text banking to be ridiculous. I much preferred talking to people, and it was very easy. I had some very interesting conversations with people. You don't want to stay on the line too long. You got a lot of calls to make, most of which don't get answered. But I really liked the phone banking. I would do that again. And as I say, it was simple. I sat here with my laptop and my cell phone and spent part of the evening campaigning for the Democrats.
Yeah, exactly. And because of the pandemic, the Biden-Harris campaign, they did not want you to go out and canvass. So they had a virtual campaign office, like Janet, you had talked about on Cherry Road. Well, it was virtual through Slack. It was Slack, yeah. So that was very interesting too, because then I had to step outside of my comfort zone and learn new computer skills. And I remember working with a couple of millennials. And so I had said, okay, I've been out of the workforce for a long time. If you don't use it, you lose it. I lost it. I need your help. And I said, okay, just think of me as a baby and I'll start, I'm crawling now. I'll start, taking off and becoming a toddler and then all on my own. And I did, and that really helped out. So I did learn a lot of computer skills, which I haven't used now. So I'm kind of, rough on that. But even just with doing Zoom calls and sharing screens and putting together, slideshows, but they did have the slide deck, but, just trying to figure out how to present it on Zoom because Zoom was a new concept, for me back then because of the pandemic as well. But yeah, I thought it was very rewarding. And as a result of that, with all the volunteers and everything, we did win. But I was doing it more on a national level instead of on a local level. So now I'm ready to, get on board and start volunteering on the local level because that really is important.
Well, I also, besides the phone banking and the text banking, I wrote postcards and letters. And, that's really easy. The only problem is getting hand cramps because you do it by hand. Every different method that we use, we're touching people, whether they want to be touched or not, we're touching them. But the one thing that I did find in phone banking was we were making repeat calls to people, and some of them were getting pretty irritated. There needs to be some kind of a mechanism for updating those files in real time, because you don't want to piss people off that are, they start out on your side, but if you irritate them, they're not going to be on your side for much longer. So that is something that needs to be dealt with.
I agree with that because I had gotten threatened several times. If you call back one more time, I'm not going to vote for them at all. And, I just remember just being so apologetic and saying, okay, we're not going to call them. I'll put you on the list, not to call you anymore. But yeah, somehow the list, like Jan has said, was updated in real time. So people were there were some people that were agitated.
There's a question about things for Joe Cunningham. And I don't want to be inappropriate at all, but 2 weeks ago, I did get to meet Joe Cunningham. Okay, that's all I'm going to say. But he's got my voice. Do you get what I'm saying? He's gorgeous is what I'm saying. And in person, he's very personable. He had his handlers there with him and would listen to us as we talked about our education concerns. I have just joined a group that's on Facebook that I think of, I can't remember what it's called, but I guess it's just called Joe Cunningham for governor. Is that what it's called? Something like that. So there's at least that one being run by, I think it's Cindy Fisk is running it. And I guess it's just not time yet to get it up and running fully. But yeah, I really want to be a part of that because this governor did not care. My feeling is he didn't care if I lived or died as a teacher. He denied us vaccines, and I ran across the border and got vaccinated in Concord as soon as I could. And then I went on Governor McMaster's Facebook and I said, thank you, Governor Governor Cooper for letting me have the vaccine.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
And a couple of weeks later, teachers in South Carolina get vaccines because I think the media started covering that. So yeah, we got to toss that guy out, I hope.
Is he eligible to run again for governor? Mm-hmm. McMaster? There's no term limits?
I didn't think so. Am I wrong about that? No, I think he's going to be running yeah.
He's
term limit.
Really,
this was he only became governor when Nikki Haley moved up after Trump was elected. So this is his first full term.
Full term. Yeah.
Well, that's true, but let's make it his last.
I hope so.
He's a disaster. So what does Tim Scott have to do with that? Is he running too?
There's 3 different women running.
Are there?
One of them's a state representative, and one of them's an activist, and one of them's, I don't know what. I think that Tim Scott has like $10 million though. So I don't know if they think that's a viable race. I would think Tim Scott and Cunningham would be the ones that would have a lot of things we can do.
I love what Padmini's saying about the young people. And they let us down in the last two elections, I think. They did not come out in the numbers that we needed them to. And so I was at Winthrop before I'm trying to think when it was. It was a couple years ago. It was pre-COVID. And the conference I was at, I was able to mull around in kind of the student union and just talk to kids. And it was fantastic. But I think that those types of activities are limited on campus in terms of how much of that you can do. So I think the idea is to, I don't know, do we go to the bars and chat them up? Why not? Why
I just Googled it. The three candidates that are running against Tim Scott are Angela Jeter or Geter, Geter, chairwoman of the Spartanburg County Democratic Party, State Representative Crystal Matthews, and then this activist, Catherine Fleming Bruce. Those are the three women who are running in the primaries.
Yeah, we're looking it up right now.
They only show two right now that are registered to run in the primary. Angela and Crystal. Yeah, that's it.
Is it on Ballotopedia?
Right.
Is
Yes.
that where you're looking?
Yes.
Okay.
And Tim Scott actually has some competition. Even there's two other people running in the primary against him.
Oh, really? Yeah, that's interesting.
Yeah.
Says he's raised about $31 million for his reelection bid.
Wow.
Well, I saw something that too, he might be considered as a VP candidate in 24.
I saw that too.
Yeah.
I'm not thinking that though. Are you thinking that?
No, get him out of here.
That's true. That part's
Get
true.
them all out.
Him and the horse he rode in on.
Right.
Yeah, but I don't know. In general, where do you all think that it's best to spend our time? Because that's the thing. Having more time now, I just want to spend it the right way. I don't want to waste my time. And is it better to try to save South Carolina somehow and try to work for change here? I've been down in South Carolina for 34 years now, and you know, it's a tough place, and I'm still learning how backwards it is. It's just because living in Fort Mill, I didn't know. It's like just a little Charlotte, but you get out to the rest of South Carolina and oh boy, what's going on. And the teacher group that I'm on, it's called SC for Ed. And the stories the teachers tell about how their schools are run and the lack of resources that they have is just abominable. And so it's just a lot of work to be done here. And the people who are in that General Assembly, their kids do not go to public schools. They didn't go to public schools. Their grandkids didn't go to public schools. The majority of them are lawyers, and they have no motivation to preserve public schools for the rest of the state. So it's to me, it's very heartbreaking, and they keep getting reelected. So I started in this state in 97, and that's right about the time that the General Assembly switched over to majority Republican. And so for my whole tenure here, it's been run by Republicans and not much change.
Where did you come from, Janet?
Well, I'm from Detroit. I taught in France I lived in France a couple years. And then when I moved to Charlotte, I started my teaching career in Stanley County, about 30 miles east of Charlotte, Albemarle, around there.
Yeah.
And taught 4 years, and then got burnt out and worked in the corporate world.
Well, I came from California.
Oh my gosh.
The San Francisco Bay Area. So talk about culture shock.
Right. Well, I had done my practice teaching in Louisiana in the Cajun territory north of Lafayette. And so the Carolinas weren't a shock to me because, oh my gosh, Louisiana sure was. It was wild down there. But yeah, I think there's so much of South Carolina that I just don't even think about. But then when you drive to the beach and you go a different way, you're like, wow, drive through Lee County, one of the poorest districts. And it's just, I don't even know how people are getting by there.
Now, I was going to say our neighbor moved here from the Chapel Hill area. So a couple of months ago, she had gotten some postcards. She got about 100 postcards or so. And a few of us, Rosemary, who's also on the Zoom call tonight, we all got together at the Grove and we just sat in the back under the pavilion and we all did like 10 or 15 postcards each because we just felt that North Carolina is more purple, and especially, you know, Burr is running, and I know it's not our state, but maybe if we could turn that seat over to blue, we thought it was more beneficial for us to do that, even though it's a different state.
I see exactly that point. Yes. My boyfriend says, if you want to really help, you need to move across the border and get us another blue vote.
I moved to Cabarrus County in North Carolina in '94, and was bluntly told that the good old boys ran it and we all could, you know, put it where the sun don't shine. But as more and more people moved into the county,
Changed.
reasonable voices prevail. And it's, and that, good news, bad news, that's what's going to have to happen to South Carolina too. Because when you have generations of people that no one in their family has ever gone to a public school since they were 2-room schools. What do they care?
They don't care. You're right. You're right.
It's amazing the quality of the public schools here in Fort Mill when you compare it to the rest of the state.
Absolutely.
These kids are getting an outstanding education.
Yes.
Yeah, and I think that goes back to the history of the Springs family and how they were the ones that started that. It didn't necessarily come from the transplant, you know, from all around the world, really, that we have now. I think it goes back a long, long way. Even when I was teaching in Cherokee County over by Gaffney, and I was taking classes at Winthrop, and teachers in my class were Fort Mill teachers, and their master's classes were being paid for by the district. And so that was, you know, before the year 2000, they were already building up a really, and they were paying extra for national board teachers. And I remember when I left Cherokee County, where there was some abysmal teaching going on there because people had just come back to their community. The teachers who were there had gone to that school. And not that there's anything wrong with that, unless you never get any better, you know. But I remember when I got hired into Fort Mill, I was scared. I thought, God, all these teachers are so good. That's what you want. You know, that's what you want, to have to rise to the level of that. Yeah, and it's our property value, that's for sure.
Yeah, and Janet, that is a good question. And that's something I think that we as a group have to think about is, okay, what are we going to do that's going to make the most impact here in South Carolina on a local level? So that's something I think that we really need to think about and discuss maybe at our next meeting. And also, I think Candy had wanted to ask, well, first of all, Janet, I wanted to tell you, thank you for a very informative presentation. Thank you for giving us something to think about as far as, you know, how involved we want to become, how effective this group will be, what our impacts would be, our gifts, our avenues for getting involved. and working independently and all of your other ideas is just like a special treat for us. And I'm hoping too, since you're on the same page that most of us, if not all of us, are on, is, you know, a lot of us are retired and there are some working people as well, but would love to link up with you. You know, it seems like you have a wealth of information in the county that we can use to maybe piggyback on the things that you're working on, or even coming alongside as well to try to make an impact too. But thank you so much for a well-presented
You're welcome. Y'all are just great. Thank you.
Mhm.
And
let's
one
give
thing-
her a clap, y'all.
Oh,
See the thumbs up.
and I guess one thing, my parting thought is that Archie Parnell did lose by only 3% in this district. It's not impossible to do work in this district. I think his mistake was he didn't touch Cherokee County, and he had a little portion of Cherokee County was in his district. I don't think it is anymore with the way it's drawn now, but he ignored that part, and there were votes there. And I think that lesson is you can't ignore any parts of your district. You got to go after them. And I would love to throw Ralph Norman out.
Yes.
I'm not sure we have anybody to go against him yet, but that would be a great.
Go ahead, Kevin.
I met a young man,
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
Kevin Brown?
I guess
Right.
he came to one of our meetings,
That's meeting.
and he was supposed to be running against Ralph Norman, but this kid is not going to be able to stand up to Ralph Norman. No way.
No, he was on our last, right, he was at our last meeting.
Yeah. I mean, he doesn't have a chance of a snowball in hell. I mean, if with all the backing that, what was this? Oh God, I can't remember the guy's name.
Kevin Brown, I think it was.
No, the young man who ran before the last time.
Oh, Mo.
Yeah, Mo.
Mo Brown.
Mo Brown.
Yeah, Mo
Yeah.
couldn't do it with his personality and his background.
Mhm.
This kid hasn't got a prayer.
Right.
You know, we have to find really good quality candidates.
Mhm. That's the problem right now. That the race that I'm looking at participating in is District 97. It's over closer to the beach, but it's very rural, and it was Democratic before the last turnover. And right now there's going to be a Republican primary, and I think the good old boy in that mix will beat out the Moms for Liberty candidate that is running there. I think he will. And then he'll be up against Rashawn Lewis is his name. And this is a former teacher who's a community organizer right now. And I really liked his video and his message and everything. And he would just be another vote. To me, it's a small election. It's off season because it's special. It's going to be May 17th. So to me, it's like practice for to see what impact can be made. And so I think it would be kind of exciting for y'all to interface. We could all interface together. We could take bus loads over there. We could canvass in this rural district and see if we could have an impact. I think it would be like training school, and we could, really, I don't know. I'm just throwing that out there. Let me see. I think it is. I think he spells his name like this. Okay, I think it's Rashawn Lewis. I was very impressed with his video. I have vetted him as much as I can vet, but and I would say that the two other people running are unacceptable to me. So the other thing I would share, and all of this will be in other work that I share, is it's called the Rural Project for South Carolina. And that is Krista Williams. And I have never seen anyone like her. She's gone into the smallest little towns in South Carolina and made friends and got people involved and networked and everything. So those are people I'm watching for a grassroots movement. Okay, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Yes,
Janet.
Thank
thank
you
you
so
very
much.
much.
Oh, and
Yeah,
you guys
thank
got to do your
Fine.
business still. I'm so
Thank
sorry.
you.
I will let you go. Take care. All
Okay.
Take care.
Thank you,
Bye-bye.
Janet.
Thank
right,
you.
bye-bye.
As far as business, I don't know if everyone had heard or not, if you came in late. Our president, Gary Pierce, had a family issue, so he was unable to attend today, and it was an emergency. So I'm asking people to keep him in your thoughts and prayers tonight. And so you guys ended up with me, but Janet did a great job. And I guess we'll see you next week, month. If there's anything else that you wanted to discuss, I mean, we are adjourning early.
Don't hang up.
Okay,
I have a question. Even though the numbers are falling, it will still be risky for a lot of us to go to the Grove for anything. And I think it's incredibly unfair that they're taking away this Zoom tool from people, which has allowed people who are virtually homebound to participate.
What?
Who's taking away Zoom?
The book club can't use Zoom anymore.
Right.
It's too expensive. Other groups have been denied using Zoom that were meeting on Zoom regularly, and yet other groups can use Zoom. But I don't understand why. I played trivia on Zoom for months,
Yeah, me too.
and now you don't have that option, and that ballroom is packed with people.
Yeah, they're not being careful at all.
No.
yeah. Well, to rest assured, Denise, that our Zoom is independent of the Grove. So it's actually Gary Pierce's Zoom account. And so he's.
Well, I would ask,
paying
even
for
if
that,
we do go
yeah.
back to the Grove, that you simulcast it or whatever they want to call it, so that those of us who can't go to the Grove can still participate.
I think that we're kind of on the same page, as far as putting our health in danger as far as meeting in person. But I think we're doing it month by month, and that's why we decide to do it in this month, and then we'll be taking a look at it next month. But there is something that will be going on, and it is at the Grove, and
Yeah, I saw that in the update.
yeah, where the clubs or each group and club will be, presenting, to the community.
Club and Grub.
Yeah, and we were thinking about doing that, but you can be inside or outside, and we had requested to be outside. And I think that's going to be in maybe April. And so we said, we'll go ahead and submit our application or whatever we need to do to be a part of that group, because we thought it would be nice that people would know who we are and may want to join. But we said only if it will be safe. If it's not going to be safe, then, we will not do it. And Candy, is there anything you wanted to add to it?
Yeah, that's called what, Grub and Club. So they're gonna set up, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Real good.
They're gonna set up tables, so it's just gonna be like, vendors coming in, so people can come up to your tables and, it'll be interesting to see who comes by and makes nasty comments. Ought to at least do it.
Oh, dear.
And the other thing is, tell other people, we have like 70
You
to
went out
call
on
in.
it.
I like the
off,
Zoom
yeah.
meetings because when we're in the Grove, we can't hear. I can't hear what people are asking or people are saying. And on Zoom, the presentation with John Kralevich last month was so good. I wish he'd run for office. But I mean, it's nice
He
to
has.
do this for a while, and maybe later on we could do what you suggested is, put something that people could stay at home and watch, and some people could be there. So if anybody wants to do that rub and club thing, or just volunteer for a little bit of time. And the other thing is, and I'm going to call Janet because she knows so many people, and we have to think of topics to have each month that are interesting. I thought she did a great job, and John was great last month. So,
Yeah.
we got to have people that are worthwhile. And
John did run
sitting here
for
trying to think
office
of
in the
people.
past.
Right. Didn't,
So,
but
well, that's how I met him. The first time I met him, he was out here calling on the people who had voted Democratic in the primaries. So, yeah, he's a good guy.
Yeah.
He's very. Did you all see that thing that I think I posted it? It was a thing that John had posted on Facebook, and I put it in the email to people. It was about Black History Month, and it was like a little article he wrote. It was so good.
Yes, I saw that.
I'll look for it.
Anyway, I don't have anything else.
I have to leave. I've got a couple of
Yeah,
things.
but thank you guys who hadn't.
Okay, yeah, I'm leaving too.
Coming.
Yeah.
Okay.
thank you.
Okay, thank you so
Have a good
much.
evening.
Thanks,
Yeah.
Niall. Okay.
Thank you
Yes,
so much
this
for
was
coming.
great. I'm sorry I was
Yeah,
late.
very good.
Yeah. And
Thank
so
you.
everybody have a great evening. So we will adjourn, but just please remember to look at, I'm preaching to the choir right now. You guys do look at your emails and the stuff that's on the website, but we're just finding that some people are not doing that. So, spread the word if you can as well. But thank you guys so much and have a great evening.
You too.
Bye-bye now.
Bye.